But what if I told you that the Celtics could actually get some additional pieces that make it well worth their while?
Okay, this is what I'm interested in.
Let's just get right into the potential package, because this is where things get interesting. In this trade, the Celtics would ship off Al Horford, Josh Richardson, Romeo Langford.
I'm in. I'm in. Am I crazy? I'm doing that. After this whole time, I'm like, oh, I wouldn't do this because of John Wall's contract. I look at this and I go, oh wow, I might be in. YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Today we got a good video. We are jumping into a big time NBA rumor right now. John Wall. Could John Wall be traded to the Celtics? Do they want to go out and get him? Is he worth it? He's got the big salary. We're going to be reacting to a video in which I don't necessarily know what to expect yet, but a video that says the Celtics getting John Wall would be way bigger than people think. It's from Woods Hoops. I think I've reacted to at least one of his videos on the channel before, so excited to jump into this and just see what he has to say, because personally, I'm going to spoil my take here. I kind of want to stay away from John Wall, and it's not a matter of, oh, I don't think that guy has any game anymore. It really comes down to the price tag and how much you're going to pay him. Like, he probably is the worst contract in the NBA right now. So I wouldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole. I just realized how much green is going on in this video. But luckily, this is a Celtics video, so we're okay with that. Guys, before we jump into this video, make sure to hit that subscribe button and like the video, and comment down below, would you go after John Wall? All right, I've been having some audio issues with my mixer and soundboard, so let's hope it holds up here.
The Boston Celtics by far have been one of the most interesting teams to follow in the past year. Between Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown emerging as one of the better duos in the league, to this team having a ton of young guys with potential, the Celtics' future has been looking very bright. But maybe not bright enough.
I don't think this is the point of his video. I'm not saying that, but I hate when people say this about the Celtics. Like, you look at Jason Tatum, you look at Jaylen Brown, it's like there's not many teams around the league that have that bright of a future that the Celtics have just in two players alone. But I know he's trying to set us up here for a hook at the end, so let's get going here.
After their postseason run, it was clear the Celtics just didn't have what they needed to win at the highest level despite Brown and Tatum balling out.
Facts.
So going into the offseason, many believed that this team would be making some big moves to try and improve. Yet, here we are. Sure, there weren't a lot of big names in free agency, but this team had assets to trade and they certainly could have gotten a deal done. But, well, they didn't. But against all odds, after it seemed like the NBA season was over, a report came out that could very well lead to the Boston Celtics making a big trade for their third star. And as you know by the title and thumbnail,
I don't know about third star. I don't know if I'm giving John Wall that nod. Like, he definitely once was. Then I'm saying once was like 3-4 years ago he was. But now is he? I don't know. I don't know.
That player is John Wall of the Rockets. Today, we have to talk Celtics, and in particular, taking a look at why this team should in fact trade for John Wall, who is—
All right, let me pause here. I know I'm killing you guys with the pause, but he says John Wall Celtics. What we're talking about in this video is why the Celtics should make this trade, how John Wall would fit in with the team, how the Celtics should get another valuable players in this trade.
Available, despite that also meaning that they would be taking on his massive salary, as well as going into what the package would look like to get the deal done and what kind of impact Wall would have for the Celtics team. But before we dive into that, if you could take a quick second and subscribe if you're new and join the Woods crew.
Hey, go subscribe to your boy there.
It would be greatly appreciated. Like I said, going into the offseason, many believed the Celtics would be making some solid moves to improve after their postseason failure. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not like anyone believed the team was going to make the NBA Finals, but I think it's safe to say they fell short of almost everyone's expectations because of the star power they had.
They almost made it to the Finals the year before.
This team is young, and they will need to get some experience under their belts before they make a deep playoff run, right? Well, even though I thought this was the case, we saw a team in the Hawks make it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals despite being one of the youngest teams in the league.
The Celtics have so much experience. Like, I think that that's just a misunderstood thing that NBA fans go with, and I think Woods might be missing it too. Like, for being a young team, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, you know, Marcus Smart, all these guys have a ridiculous amount of playoff experience under their belt, like at a young age, really. They're not a Trae Young or, you know, guys in the Hawks.
I couldn't help but think
way more experience.
Team could do this kind of damage as well. That is, if they had the right pieces. And I think John Wall could very well be that guy. If you weren't aware, it was recently reported by Shams that John Wall and the Rockets have agreed to part ways, and he will be traded before or shortly after the NBA season begins. Now, this should be no surprise because the Rockets are in a weird situation. I mean, last year they traded away their superstar for players they thought could keep them afloat. But after snagging Kevin Porter Jr. and Jalen Green, it's clear that this team is in rebuild mode and have their guards for the future.
Rebuild mode. mode,
where does
to
this
say
leave
the
John
least.
Wall?
Yep.
Well, obviously the Rockets will want to start greening KPJ, and with Wall looking to be a win now starting point guard, the fit just isn't there. With that being said, despite John Wall being a great player who got the short end of the stick when it comes to injuries, the man is, well, overpaid to say the least. And the stats
He was
don't lie.
overplayed even if he was
John Wall
healthy.
is the third highest paid player in the NBA despite signing his contract over 3 years ago. The other two players you might ask?
That's crazy.
Well, at number 1 we have Steph Curry, and at number 2 we have the former Rocket James Harden. Now don't get it twisted, because this is not a shot at John Wall, but the fact is, anyone making $44 million a season that isn't a superstar is overpaid. But that doesn't mean there isn't upside for making a move for someone like Wall. Despite being a quote-unquote overpay, Wall still has the potential to bounce back and become a star, or maybe even a superstar once again. People forget that before sitting out 2 seasons due to injury, this
Hold on, I do want to bounce back to this. You don't pay the guy that much money if that word, that middle word right there, maybe, is even a question. You know what I mean? That's the hard part. No kidding, I would take the John Wall of a couple of years ago if he was that guy, but I'm not going and paying 50 million bucks for a maybe. You know what I'm saying?
A superstar once again. People forget that before sitting out 2 seasons due to injury, this man was a top guard in the league in competition with guys like Steph Curry and Kyrie Irving. Not to mention, he couldn't even shoot from the perimeter, which makes his previous status even more impressive. Last season with the Rockets, John Wall showed that he can still potentially be that guy,
in these highlights,
he was still a 20-point per game scorer. But where did the Celtics even come in with this whole thing? Well, John Wall made it very apparent that he wants to go to a team where he can get some legit playoff runs, and this does make sense. After all, what rebuilding team is going to want a $44 million per year veteran? It's only going to be teams that have contending in mind. With that being said, the John Wall sweepstakes is very limited, because there are only so many contenders that need a guard at the moment and can also afford someone like Wall. And in my eyes, there are really only 3 teams that could get the deal done, those being the Celtics, Pelicans, and Clippers. Now I know the
Celtics, Pelicans, and Clippers. On that list, I honestly would rank in terms of where he would fit and who would pay the money to get him. I think the Celtics are last on that list. I think it probably goes Clippers, Pelicans, Celtics.
The Pels aren't contenders, but I don't think Wall would be opposed to playing with Zion and Brandon Ingram. But the Celtics, man, this is where I believe Wall would be the best fit and have the most opportunity. It has been clear over the past couple of seasons that the Celtics haven't been able to find their guy at the point guard position. First, it was Kyrie, who actually was amazing, but it ended on
so true though.
Then they had Kemba, who they just traded away, and now they need someone new if they still want to start guard. Now I know, Marcus Smart is more than capable of starting, and so is Dennis Schroeder, but I believe that this team needs to upgrade even more at the guard if they want a chance in the stacked Eastern Conference. Wall could very well be the guard that this team needs and make this team even deeper by sending Schroeder or Smart to the bench. But how exactly would Wall fit in with Tatum and Brown? And would it really lead to more?
Let me answer this before he does. How would Wall fit with Tatum and Brown? I think a lot of people be like, oh no, that wouldn't fit, it wouldn't work. I think it would. Like, I think John Wall could easily fit in with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Honestly, I think that he's the type of player that can score when he needs to, but he's also a very good passer. He can move the ball. He knows how to run an offense. That wouldn't even be close to my concern, John Wall fitting in with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Again, it all comes back to the handcuffing of that salary for me. So the player, I don't think that he would have any trouble fitting in with these guys. He's a veteran point guard, one-time superstar type point guard. He knows his way around a team. So I'm not concerned about the fit. It's the dollar signs that's a problem to me.
Wins. Like mentioned last year, it was very apparent that the Celtics didn't have their guy at the guard position. Sure, they had Kemba, who was, well, solid, but if you watched any of the games, you would know that he just was not the guy for the team, especially because of his injury history. The Celtics also went out and got Dennis Schroeder, but after he failed to take a leap in the playoffs and instead regressed, it's apparent that he won't be their star guy either. Then we have Marcus Smart, who, although has been one of the better options out of the 3, isn't exactly going to put the team over the edge, being that we've seen what he can do. What I'm saying here is that this team does not have their guy to form a 3-headed monster with Tatum and Brown, but what they do have is the ability to get someone like John Wall.
I can't argue that.
This might seem like a terrible move to some, because, well, John Wall is an injury-prone point guard that is making $44 million a year. But what if I told you that the Celtics could actually get some additional pieces that make it well worth their while?
Okay, this is what I'm interested in.
They need to bribe whatever team they want to send him to with other assets in order to take on that monstrosity of a contract. Lucky for the Rockets, they have a large amount of assets that could help them do just that. But before we talk about the impact of this trade, let's just get right into the potential package, because this is where things get interesting. So far, according to what I've seen, everyone's been saying that the Celtics would trade away Al Horford and cap filler for Wall. I mean, Horford has shown that he does not need minutes on a rebuilding team like John Wall would with his time with the Thunder, and his deal is slightly better than Wall's as well. But seeing people talking about this trade got me thinking, what if the Celtics could get more? I mean, like I said, realistically, there are only 3 teams I can see getting John Wall if he wants to be traded to a legit playoff team. So in my eyes, the Celtics could get some other assets as well because of the contract risk they'd be taking on with John Wall. So with that being said, let's go over my huge trade package.
Did I see a Christian Wood little clip there?
Thought was possible. In this trade, the Celtics would ship off Al Horford, Josh Richardson, Romeo Langford.
I'm in. I'm in. Am I crazy? I'm doing that after this whole time. I'm like, oh, I wouldn't do this because of John Wall's contract. I look at this and I go, oh wow, I might be in. Just because that Christian Wood and you're not really giving up anything crucial.
Aaron Naismith and cap filler in exchange for John Wall, Christian Wood, and a first-round pick. Regardless of whether or not you like this trade, you have to admit that it is rather interesting, and we have a lot to break down here, so let's just get right into it. Starting off with the Houston Rockets, they get Al Horford, who, like I already mentioned, is a good fit.
Hey,
Josh Richardson, who could bring great defense to the starting
Christian
lineup
Wood's face up there, and I was like, yep, sign me up.
Langford and Naismith that are the exact same timeline as the backcourt of Jalen Green and Kevin Porter Jr. The Rockets have made it clear that they are going full rebuild, but I believe they'd be willing to throw in a pick if it means getting rid of John Wall's huge salary, which will likely give them room to extend their backcourt way earlier compared to if they had Wall. But let me talk about the elephant in the room, because I know they'd also be giving up Christian Wood, who is one of the better players on the team. But just let me explain. Even though Christian Wood is good, he's also at the age of 27, just entering his prime. This means that he will in fact lead to more wins for this Rockets team that's looking to rebuild and get a couple of lottery picks.
I'd be doing that trade
in this
for
scenario
Wood
to get worse now, but they also set themselves up better for the future because of the picks they'd be getting and to free up cap space for when they're likely to sign Jalen Green and Kevin Porter Jr. to near max contracts. This is about the future for the Rockets, not to mention they would be getting Aaron Naismith, who in a couple years could very well be just as good as Christian Wood. Houston would have to give up a decent amount, but I can't help but feel with where they're at right now and what they'd be getting in this deal, it's nearly perfect for them. And they would benefit from it down the road when they have loads of cap space to target young free agents or extending their own stars. But now let's talk Celtics, because like I said, this trade would be great for them as well. It's clear that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are ready to win now, and being that they are both all-star caliber players ready to take a leap, I believe there is a good chance that Brad Stevens sees this and makes a move to show him he supports them and wants to win now. And at the moment, this would be the best trade scenario for Stevens to make. Obviously, getting someone like Beal or Dame would be the best case scenario, but with both of these guys likely not demanding a trade, this means that the Celtics should likely explore other options.
And if you go two guys, you get Wood and Wall.
Best thing. We obviously know that if healthy, John Wall can be one of the better guards in the league and can take a lot of the scoring pressure off of the Celtics duo, or at the very least, make them a lot more balanced and versatile. Wall isn't the best perimeter shooter, but if he can get to the rack and play make when the shot isn't there, he would actually fit very nicely alongside the Celtics, who have two stars capable of shooting. People also forget that Wall is an underrated defender who would elevate this team, especially in the playoffs. And even though it is a risk taking on a contract like that for someone so injury prone, I believe it is worth it for one reason and one reason only, that being Christian Wood, who is also in this deal. Christian Wood is by far one of the most underrated players in the league. And like I mentioned, he's just entering his prime at age 27, so he would fit in with Brown and Tatum for the foreseeable future very nicely. Wood can stretch the floor and, like I said in other videos, can really do it all, whether it's scoring, playmaking, rebounding, or even protecting the rim at times. Wood could also be the third option this team needs regardless of how John Wall does, so worst case scenario, they have 3 great players in their starting lineup, and best case, they have 4 with John Wall. Wood and draft capital makes this trade a lot safer for the Celtics. And
let's not forget too, his trade idea had the Celtics getting his first round pick back as well, right? Like, that's worth noting.
I can't help but feel that a starting lineup of John Wall, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Christian Wood, and potential stud center Rob Williams would do some big things to the season.
John Wall, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Christian Wood, and Robert Williams. That sounds pretty filthy if everyone sort of plays to their prime or stays healthy, because you have Robert Williams, who's on the screen right now, John Wall, who we're talking about. Like, there's a lot of injury concerns there. But if they're all firing on all cylinders, that is a filthy lineup that only is going to get better.
Decent if things go their way. If the Celtics can pull off the trade I mentioned, I would say do it in a heartbeat. But if it is just taking on John Wall, I'd say that it's something to consider, but not 100% go.
I like that. That's a perfect way to put it. All right, that was a really good way to sort of end the video. He said if the Celtics can pull this trade off, they can get John Wall and Christian Wood, then it's definitely something that they should go try and do. And that's what kind of sold me. Like, I don't want the John Wall contract, but you could get Christian Wood and John Wall for giving up, Horford, Josh Richardson, and then Naismith and Langford. Like, you're giving up a decent amount of your young guys and a couple of the guys that you just brought in this offseason, but you got 2 guys there, Christian Wood especially, just 2 proven guys that are probably going to make your team better like that instantly. But then he says, you know, but if you're only going after John Wall, maybe you can consider it, but it's not something that he would be chomping at the bit to go out there and do. And that's kind of where I end up with it too. So I really do agree with that I'm willing to make that move. Like I know I said, oh, I'm sold, I'm in. I don't want to think about it. Make sure it makes sense. Like, I love getting that first round pick in this hypothetical as well. And you get two guys that, you know, best case scenario, you got just 2 stars. That sounds really, really nice to me. But if it's just John Wall, I think I'm going to sit this one out. I don't necessarily want John Wall. I think you'd have to overpay for him, even though the Rockets have like 0 leverage in trading for him. But I'm just going to sit that one out. But in terms of getting Christian Wood and John Wall as sort of the throw-in guy and then a first round pick, that's definitely something that, you know, moves my needle a little bit more. So we'll see. I like that hypothetical trade. Shout out again to his channel. I'll link it in the description as well, because you guys know I always give the credit where it's due if I'm making content off of someone else's content. Let me know what you guys think of that trade in the comments down below. Christian Wood and John Wall for Horford, Josh Richardson, Nesmith, and Langford. Celtics also will be getting a first round pick back, so let me know what you think in the comments down below. As always, like the video and then hit that subscribe button. I'll catch you guys in the next one.